So let's start today's topic. So in the last session, we discussed about types of addresses. So in addresses, we have seen two categories. One of the address we call MAC address, which is by default available, and MAC address we have in the form of 48-bit hexadecimal. So basically, MAC address used by a switch for unicasting, and the switch is going to understand all the MAC addresses of devices. And from the MAC address, the switch is going to understand each and every device of a network. Okay. So apart from MAC address, the next type of address we have seen, we have something called IP address. So one is MAC address as well as IP address. Okay, and both addresses are compulsory. So here I'm not saying like IP is important, MAC is not important. So MAC is also important as well as IP is also important. MAC address is actually understood by your switch where you connect all the network devices, whereas IP address is used for communication. IP address is nothing but it's the language of your network where each and every device they are going to understand, they are going to communicate, they are going to identify on a network with the help of this address. Okay. So regarding IP, even we discussed about the classes of IP, means I'm talking about the ranges. So in IP address, we have seen class A, class B, class C, class D, and class E. Apart from 5 classes, we use only the 3 classes on a network. And apart from the classes, we even discuss about like the network and host portion in IP. And after that, we also discuss about the types of IP addresses. Okay. So we talk about public IP, private IP, and in order to understand networking, compulsory we need to have a concept for IP address. So IP plays a very important role. So there is nothing without IP address. So when you say network, it may be like 2 machine network, 100 machine network, or maybe whatever the devices you are connecting on a network. Every device you need to configure the IP address. Okay. Now, so till now, like whatever the classes we have done, this is we can say these are the basic or fundamental classes for your networking. Now, from today's onward, we actually try to start one of the main concepts for MCSE, and even we try to start from we can able to start the lab also. Okay. So last time, like we already discussed about network. Okay. So one more time today, we'll be focused some of the point here. So basically, network we say interconnection of devices. We call it as network. Network means a group of machines connected together, or you can say a group of computers and other connecting devices. Okay. So one of the category network we have LAN, a local area network, and the complete MCSE technology we have on LAN. And whatever the practical which we are going to see from today, the complete practical, we will be talking about the LAN. Okay. So apart from the LAN, we also have one name like WAN, wide area network. So all the network technology works here. It may be like Juniper, or it may be like Cisco, it may be like firewall. Okay. It may be router, switches. Okay. So this thing you have on WAN technology. Apart from that, we also have SAN, storage area network. And whenever you work in a company, when you try to store the data, so data doesn't mean like you will be keeping on a personal device or particular device. On a network, you also have a storage where all the data of your network will be stored centrally, and over the network, even the data is going to keep somewhere on your network. Okay, that is called a SAN, storage area network. Okay. So now the main thing here. So network, basically we say a group of devices. Let's say today I go market, I purchase a switch. On the top of switch, I'll be connecting some group of machines. So I have one machine. So this computer I'll be connecting to my switch. Now, apart from that, I also have another machine. So this computer also I'm connecting to my switch. I also have one more computer. So this computer again, I'll be connecting to my switch. So like this, I'm going to connect all a group of devices, a group of machines, so that I can able to create a network. Okay. So when you connect a group of devices together, so this concept we actually call as a network. In network, the first category we have a LAN, a local area network. Okay. So local area network is nothing but like where all the machines connected together and in a same geographical area, in a same building. So this network we can represent as a local area network. Okay. Now, again, if you want to make a local area network, when you connect a group of machines together, so this local area network, either you have in terms of work group or maybe you have in terms of domain. Okay, that means again, local area network will be divided into two subcategories. Okay, so either you make this local network in terms of work group categories. We have something called like work group, and you may have a category called a domain. Okay, so that means if I say, let's say I have a machine and these computers I'm going to connect on network. Okay, so if you connect on a network, so maybe the computer is going to participate on a work group network, or maybe the computer is going to participate on a domain network. Okay, so apart from work group, apart from domain, we don't have any other category. Either the machine may be a part of a work group network, or it may be a domain network. Okay, so the main thing we need to understand here, like what is the actual difference between work group and domain? Where actually you will see work group network and where actually you will see domain network. What's the difference? Okay. So basically we have many differences. So we start from the basics. Okay. So work group is a network where you will be having some limited machine. Work group is a network which is actually designed for a small network. Okay. Now, example for work group. Now here you can connect maximum like 25 to 30 machines. Okay. So work group is a network where you can have a limited computer. Limited in the sense you can easily count. Like now when you talk about like school network, okay, so school we cannot say like you will be having thousands of computers, so you may have only like 5 machine, 10 machine, 20 machine, not even more than that. So that is the one example for the work group. Maybe I have my home. In my home, let's say I have 2 3 laptops and I want to make a network so that I can able to transfer the data, I can able to the share data. Maybe I want to access the printer, maybe I want to access the internet. So in that case, when you make network, so that network also represents as a work group. Work group is one of the networks even you will see in school, colleges, okay? Even like in a small company, small offices, we also have a work group network. Okay, maybe I started my construction company. Okay, I just have only like 5 10 people in a company. So uh, here also you may have a work group network. Okay, so work group is a network where you can have some limited machines. Okay, so let us understand first of all like how you define work group. Okay, so work group we can say a group of machines. These machines are connected physically as well as logically. Okay, so one of the things we need to always keep in our mind whenever we say like network, in a network always there will be two types of connectivity compulsory we have to consider. Okay, the first connectivity on a network we have physical, and the physical connectivity will be given with the help of a cable, with the help of the devices like how you're connecting. Okay, so we connect all the devices of network to a switch, and for connectivity we also we actually use a cable. Okay, so we actually use like UTP cable, unshielded two-state pair. It may be like category 5 cable or category 6 cable. So it doesn't matter like whatever the speed you want, based on that you can connect the cable. Okay, so the connectivity that you see, we represent that connectivity as a physical connectivity. Okay, I'm saying like I have a network, so by seeing a network connectivity directly, I'll say okay, these are the devices connected. Okay, now the next type of connectivity we also have a logical. Logical means you cannot see this kind of connectivity. It's a logically connected, logically in the sense, so here we'll be talking about the IP address. So as I told you last time, like when you connect a multiple machine together, unless until you configure IP, there is no meaning of network. Why? Because IP is the identity of a device. IP basically we use for communication. Unless until I use IP, now the machine is not going to participate. Okay? So we never see like how the machine they are communicating. Whenever you write www.gmail, how the request goes to the Gmail. So that is a background process. So complete a logical communication will be done with the help of IP address. Okay. So first connect all the devices, and after that you need to give IP address. And when you say like work group, so the main purpose of network is why actually we connect all a group of devices. So the main purpose is like we are going to share some resources, we are going to share some data. Okay, maybe I'll connect one printer here, So that printer I can access from anywhere. Maybe I'll try to store some data here. So that information maybe I can access over the network from different machines. Okay. So this is the main advantage of a network. Okay. So Workgroup is a network where you have some limited machines and all the machines are connected physically and logically where they are going to share some data. It may be like printer, it may be the pictures, it may be like videos, it may be any data, whatever you want, you can share. That is one of the basic concepts of network. Okay. The next very important category that we use, we have domain. Okay. Domain is also a collection of computers, and where you have the machine, the devices connected physically as well as logically. Okay. Now, when you talk about like domain, so let's say this is my network. Domain also have some kind of connectivity. Okay. What kind of connectivity? The physical as well as logical. Okay. So one thing always keep in mind. Let's say I want to make a network of two computers. Okay. So first, what I need to do here. So if you have two computers, first connectivity I need, that is called a physical connectivity. So both the machine I have to connect by cable. This is called a physical connectivity, and both the machine I need to configure IP address. So here also I'll give IP, and here also I'll give IP. That means even though if you want to make a network of two computers, compulsory we need to connect those devices, and these two devices also require IP. Now, if I'm making a network of maybe like 10 to 20 machines, so those machines also connected physically as well as logically. Even now, when you see a computers in a domain, so in domain also, like if I'm connecting hundreds of devices, so these devices are connected physically. Okay. So all the computers we need to connect by cable, and every computer we require IP address. Okay. Now, whereas in domain, like all the machines in domain, they are going to share a domain directory database. Okay. Now, from here, we are trying to understand what is the actual difference between like workgroup and domain network. Okay. So where do you see workgroup network or where do you see domain network? Okay. So as I told you, like the first difference, workgroup, you can have a limited machine, limited computers. Maximum, you may have like 25 to 30 machines. Now, what about domain? So domain is a network where you can have unlimited machines. And always remember, unlimited, there is nothing. Means this is only a theoretical word. Unlimited computers. Why? Because N will be depend on the requirement. Okay. So I cannot say like whenever you start a company, all the time you need to have thousands of devices or you require hundreds of devices. No. Okay. So that will be a wrong session. So when you say like domain network, here you can have N number, and the N will be depends on the requirement. Maybe I'll be starting a company with 200 machines. I'll start my company maybe like 50 to 60 computers. Maybe I'll start a company maybe by 5 to 600 machines. Depends on the requirement, you can have multiple. Okay. So example for workgroup, all the time I'll give an example like internet cafe. Okay. So when you see internet cafe, how many machines you have seen maximum? So is there any internet cafe where you have seen like 100, 200 machines? So this will be our internet cafe where you will see only the cabin. All the cabins, we have separate computers. And every computer, when you go internet cafe, you see only computer. You will see only monitor. We never see the CPU. We never see the connectivity. Why? Because we don't have any idea about that. Okay. So these devices, actually, they are connected. How they are connected? There is a switch here. Okay. On the top of switch, all the devices, they are going to connect. This is a physical connectivity. And every computer, we need to configure IP address. Okay. So in a when you say like internet cafe, now I have never seen more than like maybe you have 10 machine, 12 machine, maybe 15, 20, not even more than that. Okay, let's say I have 20 computers in a internet. Okay, so this is an example for work group. Work group we use only for a limited machine, and this network we actually design for a small company. Okay, now the example for domain. Now domain is actually called a corporate network. Okay, this is for the company who actually work in a market. Let's say now one of the example for domain, we have a company called like Wipro. We also have a company called Dell. We also have IBM. We also have like Infosys. Okay. So these are the companies which are famous in the market. So they, in Wipro, Dell, IBM, you cannot say like only 10, 20 employees are working. Okay. So thousands of people working on this particular company. And these are the companies, they actually work on different projects. Okay. So whatever the product that you will see in the market, okay. So maximum products actually manufactured by this company. Okay. So Wipro is famous for manufacturing many products. Okay. So these the company Wipro, Dell, IBM, they have a dedicated network. So this network we actually represent as a domain. Okay. And whatever the syllabus that we are going to see in our MCSE, the complete MCSE syllabus we will be discussing about domain. Okay. But anyhow, even a small practical I'll try to show you like how even we make a work group network. Okay, just only for our understanding. Okay, so whatever training we have, we are not going to see the complete training on the work group. Okay, I'm not going to train you how to manage your home machine. Okay, home we never have maximum network here. Okay, so if you have like your personal machine, you can easily operate. But in a home, if you make a network, so that network doesn't have a lot of technology. The technology that you will see in a domain network. Okay, so I'm coming to explain this kind of technology now. So the first difference is a limited machine where a domain will be having unlimited machine where the limit will be depends on the company. Okay. Now the next very important difference. Now work group is also called as P2P network. Okay. P2P means now if you connect 20 computers, you have a 20 computers. So by using 20 computers, I already created a network for my internet cafe. Okay. So the next question comes like, if you are making a network of 20 machines, 10 machines, 2 computers, or maybe I'm making a network of multiple devices. So every computer needs operating system. So operating system, again, it is one of the requirement for a network. So you cannot use a computer without operating system. Operating system helps you to understand machine. With the help of operating system, you can use application, you can able to operate a device, you can able to perform different tasks on a computer. So normally what happens like if you are using 20 computers, so what operating system you need to install in order to create, in order to use this machine. Okay. So when you say work group, there is no condition. Condition in the sense, okay. So complete 20 computers, if I want, I can install only Windows. Right? I can install only Windows. Even in Windows, I can install anything what I like. Means now some of the machine I can install Windows 8, some machine maybe I install Windows 10, some machine I can have XP. So whatever the operating system I like, according to me, I can able to install any operating system. Okay, that there is no condition here. Okay. Instead of that, now even apart from Windows, here some of the machine I can have Windows, some of the machine I can have Linux, some of the machine maybe I can have Mac. Okay, so that means whatever operating system you want, you can use. It will be connecting on your network. So this network we can represent as a domain. It will be represented as a workgroup network. Workgroup is a network where you can connect some limited machine and whatever operating system you want, you can install. That's why we call it as a P2P network. P2P means according to you, you can install any. You have some machine like Windows 8, some machine you can have Windows 10, some machine you can have any operating system. Okay. Now, whereas domain is actually called a server client network. It's a corporate network. Okay. So every company network, when you create, so there will be two main conditions. Let's say I'm starting a company. And if I make a network of my company like 100 computers, so complete 100, you cannot say only client. Even complete 100, we cannot say only server. Okay. Now, some of the machine I'll be installing server. Some of the devices I need to install a client operating system. Okay. That means at least I need to have one server. Rest of the machine I can have a client. Okay. So this network we actually represent as a client server network, or it may, you can even say domain network. Okay. Now instead of 100, maybe let's say you may have 200 machines. Maybe instead of 100, you may have 1,000 machines. So doesn't mean like you may have only one server. Maybe you can have 2 to 300 servers. Okay. Rest of the machine you can have a client. Okay. So similarly, like servers are dedicated operating system, which from where we can able to control, from where we can able to provide the services. It may be for a load balance. It may be for maintaining the database of network. It may be for controlling. It may be maintaining object information. So there will be many reasons for the server. Okay. So according to the requirement, you can have multiple servers. You can also have multiple clients. With the help of this client, we are going to access the services of a network. Okay. So this network we represent as a client server model, or you can say domain model. Okay. Now, so till now, whatever the differences we have seen, these are the basic differences. Now, let's talk about the main and very, very important difference, like why the company prefers domain network, why not Workgroup? Okay. So the main difference is, if you say Workgroup, we don't have a centralized management. Okay. Or you can say centralized administration. Okay. Now let's say, suppose I started my internet cafe and I connected 20 computers. Okay. So here I cannot say like by sitting on one computer, I cannot able to operate all the machines together. Okay. Workgroup, we don't, we cannot have a default technology. Okay. If I use application, that is a different thing. But by default, like when I connect a computer on a Workgroup network, with the help of one device, you cannot able to operate a network. Why? Because here you cannot see a centralized management or centralized administration. Centralized means a one point of administration. Okay. Similarly, when you say like domain, we actually use server only for managing all the network centrally. Okay. Now, with the help of this dedicated device, we are going to manage all our company network. Okay. So this is the reason like where the company actually going to prefer the domain network. Now, one of the example I'll give here, like what about what kind of centralized management we have? Now, let's say, suppose if I create account here, maybe I'll be having account like A1. Okay. So when you make account on this particular computer, even though the device is connected on a network, so this account I cannot able to use anywhere. Means even though I have another machine, I also have another computer, I can have all the different machines. So this account I cannot able to use on different computers. I have to use this account where it was created. When I store the data, whatever application which I install here, so that application will be used only from that particular device where it is installed. Okay. Whereas now when you talk about like a domain network, domain is then one of the network where you have a centralized management. Centralized in the sense, now in a company, like if somebody joins a company, let's say we have a user like sales one. So as the administrator, I can decide now where this employee can log in, which computer he can use, at what time he can able to log in. After login to a machine, what application he can access, what resources he can access. Even if I share the data on a network, will that information will be accessed by this user? I can able to implement a lot of policies here. When the user login, can he able to access the pen drive? Will he try to access the partition which is available on a computer where he log in? So like this, different things will be available for the user. Okay. So because of these features, the company they actually prefer domain network. And here you can see. So I'm saying like all the machine in network, they are going to share a common domain directory database. So here, one of the words come like directory. Okay. This is very important. Okay. So what is this directory? So first of all, directory is a common word. Let's say like if you open my computer, in your computer, like when you store data, the data actually stored on some partition or the drive. So when you open any drive, you will see there are some part, you will be having some folders. Okay. So whenever if you want to store the data, you simply right click, you make a folder, and on the top of folder, you will be trying to store the data. So let's say like MCSE data 10 a.m. So when you make a folder, so the main purpose of a folder to store the data. Folder is actually called a container. Now, similarly, the same thing, instead of graphical, if I do the same thing by command line, if you open command prompt and what is this partition? So this is my D partition. I just write D colon. You can go to your D partition. And here I want to know in a D partition, I want to know like how many folders and how many files are exist. Okay. So here we'll be using one command. We call it as dir. Okay. That means a directory. Okay. So directory is actually a common word. Okay. So graphically, we represent as a folder, whereas in folder, you can store a lot of data. And this folder accessed only by myself, the person who sit on a machine. Now this information will be accessed by that particular user. That is a particular person. Okay. So here you can see we have all the same thing. Whatever it is showing in graphical, the same thing we also have in command line. So the graphical you can double click, you can open, but command you cannot open by double click. So here you have to even use a command to open something. So we are not talking about the command-based operating system here. Now to understand the meaning of directory, just I'm giving an example here. Okay. So directory is also represented as a folder. Like the way you have folder, even you also have a directory. Okay. So that means there will be two types of directory available. Okay. One of the directory give you the information of a computer where whatever the data you store, it give you that information. Even one of the directory also available in a network where you have the complete, it is going to maintain the information or the database of a network. Okay. So one of the directory give you information of a particular file, particular folder, and that will be available for a particular device. Similarly, like when you make a network, in a network, I can have one directory. Now the directory which give you the information of your network. Okay. So that the name of the directory we actually represent as Active Directory. Okay. So basically Active Directory is not a new concept in today's server. Okay. Normally like we heard about first time AD, but normally like Active Directory is not a first the thing I want to say, like in 2016, Active Directory is not a new concept. Okay. So Active Directory, where you have the complete information of your network. Okay. Now let's see what is this AD. I can give you a small definition here. So first of all, Active Directory, we call it as a service. It's a service of Windows. Okay. Even though you may have a Linux version, you may also have Mac, you may also have Sun Solaris, different platform you may have in your network. But Active Directory is a service of Windows operating system. Okay. And remember, Active Directory, we call it as it is a service. It is not application. Active Directory is not a ready-made concept where you go Google, you write Active Directory, you get a file and double click and install. No, AD is not like that. Active Directory is by default available in a server. According to our requirement, you need to install and configure. Okay. So in the next coming part, we try to see like how we install Active Directory, and with the help of Active Directory, how we are going to manage, how we are going to maintain the database of a network. So what the AD is going to do? So Active Directory provides hierarchical or centralized management. Hierarchical means, now normally what happens when you try to store the data, so you cannot keep all the data in one folder. You start storing the data in a hierarchical. Okay. I can make a separate folder for my resume. I also have separate folder for my pictures. I also have separate folder for my videos. I can also maintain separate folder PDF. I can also have separate folder documents. That is like when you try to store the data on a machine, each and every data we maintain in a sequence order. That is actually called a hierarchy. So when you open, automatically by seeing the folder, you understand, okay, that folder maintains that information. Okay. Similarly, so first of all, like Active Directory is a service. and this service is going to maintain the database of network. Okay, that means here I'm going to maintain the information of my network. So what information the AD is going to maintain? Now it is going to maintain the information of computers. In a network, I have hundreds of devices. So once you connect any computers in my company, automatically the AD is going to maintain that information. If any employee joins the company and when he wants to use a machine, when he wants to perform a task, when he wants to log on to a machine, now first of all, again, you require information in AD. So Active Directory also plays a role for authentication. Unless until Active Directory authenticates, now the user is not going to perform anything. Okay. So Active Directory also maintain information about the printer. It also maintain information about the group. It also maintain information of different objects. Okay. So Active Directory is a service of Windows operating system that provides a hierarchical and centralized management that contain information about the network, such as like users, groups, printers, shares, OU, computers, etc. Okay. And one more thing here, OU, and the thing which I want to explain here, Active Directory, I'm not going to finish today. Okay. Why? Because Active Directory is not, we are not going to cover in one day. Today, just I'm going to give you only introduction part. Okay. That is a definition part we are going to learn. So why? Because coming session, we have a separate topic for like what is user, how to create, how to use account in a network, what is group, what is printer, what is share, and one of the concepts we also run OU. So OU is not Usmania here. Okay, don't say Usmania University. So OU we actually call organizational unit. Okay, so just now like the concept which I have given in a company, let's say I have 2,000 people working. Okay, so how do you maintain all the database of 2,000 people? So I cannot say like all the people of my company, let's say apart from 2,000, some people work for sales, some people work for IT, some people work for like HR, some people work for accounts. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide all different people in a different object. So what I do in that particular time, I create separate folder in my Active Directory so that I can also maintain the database in a hierarchical way. Okay. So once you open AD, you can have a subfolder, and with the help of these folder, we can able to understand in that particular folder we have this many data. Okay. That is into hierarchical way. Okay. So this is all the time like we have a theoretical part. Okay. Now the next thing we try to understand now how to start our MCSE practical. This is very important. All the time we have a question. Okay. So basically, if you want to do MCSE practical, MCSE lab, so minimum what we require? Minimum we require 2 physical computers. Okay. So if you have 2 computers, one of the machine you need to install 2016 server, and this machine should be 64 bits, and at least we require 2 GB of RAM. Regarding hard disk, we don't have issue. 500, 250 GB, no problem. Okay. So the first machine, if you are doing practical on 2 physical devices, if you are having 2 physical laptops, so the first laptop or first computer you need to install 2016 server. Then now another machine, you can install any client operating system. It may be like Windows 10, it may be like Windows 7, it may be Windows 8. Whatever the client you want to use, you can install any operating system. And here if you have even 1 GB also, that is enough. Okay. So between these 2 computers, what we can do now, we can able to connect cable. The connectivity should be there. So once you connect cable here, I can configure AD. I can make this machine as a client. Now we can start doing all the practical. Okay. But remember, now these 2 computers does not help you to complete lab of MCSE. Starting okay, I start all my practicals okay, but after some time, when we talk about the profile class, when you talk about the the tree and forest class, now when you talk about the trust, there are some topics we don't need only 2 machines, we also require more than these 2. Starting point, okay, we can do some of the practical easily, but maybe after some time, when we have some classes, we also require more than this machine. Okay. So these two computer doesn't help you to do all the lab of MCSE. Okay. So first I'm showing the practical physical. Now what we can do? Now instead of two, at least we require four physical computers. If you have four physical machines, then you cannot connect a four computer directly by cable. So from the market again you have to purchase switch. Then so you have to purchase switch. This is our switch. Now one of the machine I need to install server, I need to install a client here. Then I need another client. Sometimes we need two servers to maintain backup or different topics. Okay. So all the machine again I have to connect from switch. This is the physical scenario lab. If you have four physical machines, then you can install 2016 server. You can have two clients, and here also you can have one more server, so that we can do some kind of backup concept. Okay, but normally it is not possible in today's time to have multiple machines for the practice. Okay, and computer is not very cheap. You can go or you can able to do all the lab in your home. Okay, it's not possible. Even like if you ask somebody computer, right now nobody is able to give you a machine. Okay, but remember, practical is compulsory. Computer is only one of the field. The way you start learning about computer, I'm not talking only about like MCSE. If you learn any computer course, it may be like if you start doing AutoCAD, if you start doing Cisco, if you start doing the VMware, if you start any course in computer, it looks like very easy to understand. Okay, but unless until you do practical, it's even easy to forget. Okay, so practical is compulsory. Unless until you do the practical, you cannot able to understand the classes of MCSE. Okay, so the question comes like how we do all this practical in our personal machine. Okay, now if you have one computer in home, like maybe let's say I have one laptop. Okay, so what I can do now, if you have one laptop, you can do all the practical without any hesitation, without asking to somebody. So no need to ask anybody for any machine. You can do everything in one machine. Okay, how now? One machine means here there is one condition. The first condition is the computer or the laptop, they want to do the practical, the processor, it should be 64-bit, the first condition. The second condition is you need at least 8 GB RAM. Okay. If somebody is having 4 GB, you can upgrade your machine to 8 GB. It's very easy. Okay. Why? Because instead of purchasing multiple computer, at least you can purchase one RAM, connect to your laptop so that you can able to perform your practical. Okay. Now hard disk we don't have issue. If you have 500 GB is also enough. If you have 1 TB, more enough. Depends. Okay. Why? Because just we are doing for practice purpose. We are not doing we are not going to set up forever. So on the top of this machine, personally, like physically, we will be using a Windows operating system, Linux or Mac, doesn't matter what you have. So in my case, I have suppose Windows 10 operating system. So on the top of this, I have to use a software. I have to use one application. So basically, we have multiple applications for the practice. Okay. One of the applications which I'm using in my case, VMware Workstation. This is one application where you can do all your practical. If somebody doesn't like VMware Workstation, now you can even try VirtualBox from Oracle, or even you can also have Hyper-V. If you're using Windows 10, you can use Hyper-V direct, and you can start doing the practical. Okay. Okay. So in my case, I'll be using Workstation. Okay. So this application we need to install. We have to download from Google. Once you download, you have to double click the application and install it. So in Windows, if you want to install any application, just you have to double click and you have to follow the instruction like next, 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 finish. Okay. So once the installation is done, open this application. In that application, you have to install the first virtual machine, and the first virtual machine will be using as 2016 server. Okay. So when you install 2016 server, and you have to give at least minimum 2 GB of RAM. Okay. Then after installation of 2016, I'll be installing the next operating system, that is Windows 10 for the client machine. So when you install Windows 10, you need at least 1 GB RAM. Okay. So that means if you have 4 GB, you can use only 2 virtual machines. Now again, 2 virtual machines, you cannot do the practical. So that's why here I have written we need 8 GB RAM. So if you have 8 GB, now what I can do, I can install one more client and I can install one more server. According to my requirement, I can have multiple server, I can have multiple clients. Sometimes we need 2 servers, sometimes we need 2 clients. So I can have one more Windows 10. So here I need 1 GB and I need server. For the server, we need 2 GB RAM. Okay. So that means total, it requires 6 GB RAM. So for 8 GB, 6 GB utilized by your, the VMware application, whereas 2 GB also need for your personal operating system. Okay. So that is the reason why where we can do all your practical. And remember, this application, it is not released in the market for doing MCSE practical. Okay. So VMware introduced this application where we can able to perform the test lab. Means before you implement something on a real network, even as an administrator, we have to do some test lab. And when you get the success, the same thing you can implement on a real network. So this is the application where you can do a lot of things. Okay. So virtually everything is possible. Okay. So let us see first of all how you can download that application. To download VMware application, you have to open Google. Everything can download very easily. So on a Google, here you write VMware workstation. So when you write VMware workstation, it will try to take you to VMware. Why? Because whatever the product which we have from the company, it will take you to that particular company only. Okay, this is the official page. Okay, so you have to click this website. Now, so once you write like VMware workstation, so directly it will go to a VMware official website. Okay, and here the application that we are going to download. So this is our VMware workstation 15.5 Pro. This is the latest. So before 15, there was 14, there was 13, there was 12, there was 10. One of the hierarchy was going on. Okay. So you want to buy online or you want to use for the test purpose. Okay. So first try, don't purchase. Okay. No need to purchase this thing. So you can say try workstation 15.5 Pro. So again, it will ask you now, you want this application for your Linux operating system or Windows operating system. Okay. In your laptop, if you are running Windows, you can go with this. If you are running a Linux operating system like Ubuntu or Defend, you can go with this link. Okay. I don't think like we have Linux, but if you have to go with this. Don't download Windows VMware in a Linux machine. It will not work. Okay. So I'll go with this Windows. And here you can see directly it is going to download. So the actual size file we have 542 MB. Okay, you can just save file. Okay, so maybe 5 to 10 minutes, all the data, all this file will be downloaded. So I already downloaded. I cancel it. So when I go download, you can see I already have it. How that file look like? If I go down, you can see here, I already have this file. So you have to double click, then you can able to install that application. Okay. Installing is very simple. You have to double click. You have to follow next, 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 finish. Okay. So once you install, on the desktop, you'll be getting this logo. This logo says you already installed a VMware application. Double click, or even you also have a shortcut in your Windows. Like when you go start menu, on the start menu, you also have that option. You can see here, we have VMware. You can open from here. So either you can go directly from desktop, it's better. Double click. And this application we are using for our test lab. You know, whatever practical we are going to see, the complete practical will be tried to do from here. Okay. So when you open first time, it will show you this thing. Okay. So on the left side, you can left side you can see when you make some virtual machine, automatically it shows here. If you don't have any virtual machine, then you have to do with it. Okay. So the first thing is asking you want to make a new virtual machine, or you want to open the existing virtual machine, or you want to connect remote. Okay. So the option we need to go with this, create a new virtual machine. So before you say create a new virtual machine, so what virtual machine you want to create, you require operating system images. Okay. And last session, I already told you how to download Windows Server or Windows client from the Microsoft website. Okay. Download images so that keep in your machine. Maybe it takes some time for downloading operating system, because operating system size almost like more than 6 GB. Okay. So server operating system is almost 6 GB. Windows 10 operating system almost like 4 GB. So it takes time to download. Okay. So if you want to do practical from today, so please download now so that it takes time. Maybe from tomorrow we can start doing the practical if you download it. Okay. Um, so in my case, I already downloaded some operating system. So this operating system I stored in my D partition. So here you can see I have an image of Windows 10. The image of Windows 10, almost you can see the size. So 3.80 GB. This is the client operating system. So when you are installing operating system in VMware, I have to go that location. From here, I have to show that location. Where is the image? So this is the client. Even for server also, I'll be using Windows Server 2016. Okay. So the size you can see almost 5.3 GB. But the latest available for you, you have more than 6 GB. Okay. So first, I'll be showing like how to install the server. So you have to click create a new virtual machine. Okay. So if you are using a VMware workstation for the first time, don't go with the advanced. Advanced means now if you already know about VMware, if you already have idea like how much how much core you want to use for this virtual machine, and if you want to set up some configuration according to your requirement, then you can go with the custom. Okay. But in my case, don't go with custom. Try to use typical. Okay. If you're using first time, go with a typical. It is going to select the recommended setting, whatever it requires. So that means you don't have any headache for selecting like how much by default, whatever the RAM it required, it's selected. How much hard disk it required, it's selected. How many processor is required, automatically it's selected. So all the things are by default selected. You have to just say next. Okay. So create a workstation 15.x virtual machine in a few steps, a few easy steps. Select this first option. So now again, it will ask you like how you want to install the operating system. Okay. So here you have to select installer this image, and as I told you, you have to browse and show the location where is your image? So you want to install Windows 10 or you want to install server. So in my case, we'll be installing server. So I'll select the image, ISO image of server. So here it will say, now Windows Server 2016 detected. That will be installing a server. Next. Okay. So the next thing, it will ask you the product key of Windows Server. So remember here, if you are installing operating system in VMware, if you are installing for the practice, we don't require any key. Okay? But if you are installing a Windows server in a dedicated server in a company, compulsory you have to keep a product key that is a license. Okay? So we are using for the test purpose. So the by default, the trial version of my server will be 180 days. Okay? And here we need to install the version. Okay? So last time as I told you, in server, you may have the graphical operating system. In server, we also have a command line. Okay, server you may have edition like standard edition, data center. So whatever edition you want, you can install, or you can go with the default also, no problem. But remember, don't go with the option like core. Core is an option which is going to use a server in terms of command line. So right now we are not using any command line operating system. Maybe in future I have a separate session. I'll try to show you how to use server in a command line. Okay. So as of now, either you can use standard edition or you can use data center. Doesn't matter whatever you want, you can use it, but don't select core. So I'll be selecting standard edition. And the next option we have the name of account, which is going to, so what I'm doing here in VMware, I'll install a server. To log on to the server, one account will be created by name. So here what I can do, here only I can use account administrator. Here only I can give a password. So what happens? Once virtual machine ready, so here you can log in as administrator, you can give a password, whatever you give. Otherwise, suppose if you go with the default, so you can log in by this name without password. Okay, it depends. If you want, you can give a password. If you don't want, don't give. Okay, so give a password. So I'll be giving the name of person who will be using that virtual machine, administrator, or you can also give a password. Okay, or sometimes if you want, you can go with the default. Let's say I'm going with the default. So I'll show you like what will happen if you go like this. Next. The next thing it is asking you now, I'll be making a virtual machine. So whatever name I give, that name will be displayed here. Okay. Let's say, suppose I'll give a name AD server so that I can understand what is this machine, why I'm installing the virtual machine. So what happened here? Here it will show the name AD server. So by seeing the name, I understand this is my main server where I install AD. Okay, I can see the name. I can put a name here. Let's say 2016 server. So that whatever name you want, you can put it. So that name we use only for our identification. If I give a name like AD server, automatically AD is not available. You have to install unless until you install. Just showing name doesn't help you to install AD. Okay, that is our this name only to display. And the next thing it is asking why, because we'll be installing the operating system in VMware. So by default, the location it takes, it is going to keep this file inside a C drive. In C drive, we have a folder like documents. Like when you open my computer on your personal machine, so in your personal computer, you have a folder here, document. On the top of document, you have a folder virtual machine. In that virtual machine, you will be having the name, whatever the operating system you install. Here you can see, I already have one virtual machine here, Windows 10. Okay. So if you go with the default, so one more folder created by 2016 server here. So whatever the name you give, so whatever the name I give here, by that name, one folder will be created here. Okay. Instead of that, the best practice what we can do now, if you have multiple partitions in your computer, let's say I have 3 partitions and I'm doing a lot of practicals here. So what I have done, I have separate partition here where I have space. Open that partition and create a folder. Whatever the folder you want, you make it. In that folder, you can make multiple folders so that you can give a location from here. Okay. So let's say I want to install a server, and here I'll go to that location. E. On the top of E partition, I open a VMware, and here I make a folder. I'll say here, so 2016 server. So that means all the files, whatever the virtual machine which I'm creating, so the files of this virtual machine will be maintained on E partition. And in that E partition, we have a folder VMware practice. In that VMware practice, we have a folder 2016 server. Okay. Suppose in future, even if something happened to your complete operating system, so if operating system is corrupted, even the VMware application also gone. If you install new Windows, again when you install new VMware, so this folder is already exists. In that time, what we can do, we can go with this option, open a virtual machine. We already have a virtual machine which I already installed in previous time. I go with this and I can open, then I'll show this location. So what will happen? Automatically it is going to open the existing virtual machine. So this option is also important. Okay. This option comes if you want to open the existing, but if you don't have anything, you have to go with this option only. Okay. So I go with the same name, Windows Server 2016. I can go next. Now, the next thing is asking like the server where the server which I'm installing. So the server will be having the C drive. Means like every operating system has a C drive. So how much size, how much hard disk space you want to give to the C drive. So by default, you can see here, it is going to show 60 GB. Means by default, when you install the virtual machine, the size of this virtual machine C drive, by default, it will be a 60 GB. Okay, you can give 40, you can give 30, you can give whatever the size. You can give like 100 GB, 200 GB, 500 GB, doesn't matter, whatever you want, but go with the default. Why? Because we are using only for the test purpose. Okay, so that is more enough for me. Next, and remember, if you are using server, if you are installing operating system as a server, compulsory you have to go with the 2 GB RAM. So here you can see by default 2 GB RAM, and all the settings use only default. Don't do anything. Okay, why? Because we are not learning about the VMware. Whatever the default options are available, go with it. Never you have any issue. Okay, but instead of server, if you install client, you can give at least 1 GB. So 1 GB is also enough. Okay, so you can say finish. Now the server is going to install. Okay, according to the configuration of your machine, it will take that much time. So once you install a server operating system, now again I can come to home. Okay, why? Because server is now running, it is going to install. So at the same time, I can come home, and here I can create one more virtual machine for the client. Okay, for the client again you have to show the image. Again I'll browse, and the same image I also have in D partition. So here I'll show the image of Windows 10. This is my Windows 10 image. So go with it. Now, one thing you need to remember, if you are installing Windows 10 for our practice, don't select education, home, or single language. So this edition doesn't support for a computer that you try to create the machine that you are going to join in a domain network. So if you want to join any computer in your domain network, which is a corporate network, So this version doesn't support for Windows 10. So you have to go with the option Windows 10 Pro. Okay. Sometimes like by mistake, what we do, we are in hurry. I'll go with this option like make a new virtual machine. Then I'll say new. Then I'll go with the Windows 10 here. Okay. So we are, sometimes we will be very hurry. So what we do, we simply say next. Okay. But by mistake, the option selected is education. So once that client installs, so that client I cannot able to connect to my domain. So you may start getting again error. Okay. So make sure you select the option Windows 10 Pro. This is the condition. If you don't select this, they stop installing that virtual machine. So go with this, and I'll be using the default account. And see, regarding account, we have a separate session. In that time, I'll try to discuss more in detail, like what is account, how to create, as well as characters in account, password. This thing we try to, we'll see in a coming session. So we can go next, the virtual machine. So I can give like client. So whatever the name I use, that will be displayed here. So where you want to keep this file? So I want to keep the files of this VM inside to my partition that is on E drive. In E, I create one more CLIENT client. Okay, next. Again, it asking the space for hard disk. So 50 GB is enough, no problem. Next. And here you can see it's taking 2 GB. So when you install client operating system, we don't require 2 GB, 1 GB is also enough. So I can go custom hardware and I'll give 1 GB here. Okay. So what I have done for the client, I have given only 1 GB. 2 GB we don't require. Close. Then we can say finish. Okay. So once you install client, now it is going to create like this. Okay. So in your computer, when you do practical, so right now for me, this is very fast. Maybe for you take at least minimum 5 to 10 minutes. So in that time, don't feel bad. Why? Because that is your computer. So I'll be using very good configuration in my machine. That's why my computer is very fast. Okay. Sometimes like if your machine is slow, you have to wait. There is no other option. Don't go Google and don't go somewhere to sort out the problem. The problem is your configuration. Okay. So we have a server, we have a client, then we can start doing the practical. So like this, what I have done, I already installed some of the machines. And remember, if I'm having 8 GB RAM, so even like I can see, I have multiple operating system virtual machines. So unless until you power on, it is not going to utilize any configuration. If it in power off state, that means only these 2 virtual machine utilizing my configuration. Remaining virtual machine, even though available, but it is in off state, they are not going to utilize any configuration. Okay. So that means you can install multiple virtual machines. When the time comes, you power on, you start using, you can able to perform your practical. Okay. So the best thing is when you install first time, you may have many issues or maybe you get many problems. Then delete all these things. Okay. After completing first time, delete your VMware, delete all the virtual machine, go to the location of, the virtual machine, like I'm keeping all the virtual machine files here. Even delete this folder. One more time, do the same. Okay. So one more time, you can do the same. So that if you do multiple times, now you understand the practical in future. Again, if you want to install any operating system easily within a fraction of minutes, we can do all the process. Okay. So today we stop here. Why? Because today we have seen only the introduction part. Okay. And today we have seen the first basic lab, that is how to configure VMware, and in VMware how to install the virtual machine. Okay. So once this virtual machine ready, now from tomorrow, again, we are going to start our practical, like how to configure IP. And by using this virtual machine, how we can make our network, okay? How to make a workgroup network, how to make a domain network. Now this thing we are going to see in coming session, okay? So if you have any question, you can ask me so that